I'm Katie Alejado, and I will be doing my image essay on the Bataan Death March. The Bataan Death March is one of the many famous events from World War II. This image is from the documentary Tragedy of Bataan, which depicts the gruesome chronicles of the fall of the Philippines and the disheartening stories of 22 survivors. On April 9, 1942, the Japanese army forcibly transferred about 75,000 American and Filipino soldiers after the U.S. surrendered the Bataan Peninsula. The captured soldiers were forced to march to a Japanese prison camp that was 65 miles away. The captured started their dangerous journey to Marvelis, the southern tip of the Bataan Peninsula, and trekked all the way up to San Fernando. The march could take 5 to 10 days to complete. The soldiers were brutally abused by the Japanese. Many were shot, beaten, or stabbed by a bayonet, and in many cases, soldiers were beheaded. Sometimes it was just to keep them moving, or it was just for fun. As you can see in the image, the soldiers have their hands up in surrender and look unarmed. This shows that the captured soldiers weren't trying to rebel and did not pose a threat to the Japanese. However, the Japanese didn't respect the soldiers due to the fact that they surrendered, and in the Japanese culture, you fight until death. Approximately, only 54,000 soldiers made it to Camp O'Donnell, and many still died due to starvation and disease. Although the numbers are not exact, about 2,500 Filipinos and 500 Americans died in the march, and 26,000 Filipinos and 1,500 Americans died at Camp O'Donnell. I believe the purpose of this image is to show a factual image of the realities of the Bataan Death March. Out of all the images I searched, I chose this image because not only I am Filipino myself, but my grandpa lived through this. He wasn't in the war himself, but he did know many people who died on this day. When the Japanese invaded, my grandpa had to hide under a house with banana leaves as their family's bed, but he soon had to move up to the mountains to hide. However, when the U.S. surrendered, he was allowed to go back, but he had to be ID'd and bow to the Japanese, and if you didn't follow this, you would be slapped. Many of the Filipino people lived in fear because if you were a suspect of rebellion, which he called the guerrillas, then you would simply disappear. No one would hear from you again. Thankfully, my grandpa's entire family survived, even after living on very little rice and cassava, which his family called kamating. However, his experience still remained in his mind until he closed his eyes for the last time. I chose this photo because it not only reminded me of my grandpa's story, but it showed me how war can affect you for the entirety of your life. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.